right, just like that, we are back. Caution to the Airwaves podcast. And man, I mean, are we even in real life right now? Is this the real world right now? Because I don't know if you heard, but Sean Strickland is the new middleweight champion of the world, and it is still kind of unbelievable. I mean, the whole performance in itself is pretty unbelievable. Yeah, we're gonna jump into that, but I mean, just it's hard not to start with that. But yeah, I mean, obviously you see me out here with the Eagles attire. It's NFL is back. Week 1, Sunday. Eagles take on the Patriots away at Foxborough. 4:00 game for you East Coasters. Excited about that, obviously. Yeah, so I mean, NFL already off to a wonky start here. Chiefs taking an L to the Lions on the Thursday game, season opener, which was pretty wild. Great game. I watched it. Yeah, and I mean, shit, man. UFC Australia, that's what just happened. UFC 293, Sydney, Australia. And it was a good card, solid card. I mean, going into it, the name-wise, I'm sorry, I'm working through a little bit of a little throat cold going on here. We're gonna persevere though. But if my energy seems a little low and my voice is off, that's the reason. But yeah, 293. The not a lot of star power as far as the names go on the card as a whole, but obviously headlined by Israel Adesanya, who's one of the biggest stars, who took on Sean Strickland. And man, I guess we just got to start with that. It was definitely it was just, it's hard to explain. It was just Israel, just he came in and looked like himself. Nothing was really off. He didn't really notice. I was watching it with a buddy. He pointed out that he didn't physically seem to be in as good a shape as he has looked in the past, especially coming off this Alex Pereira fight where he looked incredible, super shredded, a little extra muscle, motivated, a little chip on his shoulder. He just came in very stoic and together, which is not unusual for Izzy and some of his past fights. I mean, he keeps his composure very well, usually, but yeah, it just so nothing was really that alarming in the beginning. Sean Strickland came out. I thought he was going to come out looking a little nervous. No, he looked pretty locked in and ready to go. Right before the announcements to start the fights, he's pacing. He didn't look nervous. He looked ready to go, man. And I'll tell you what, he stayed that way the whole entire fight. His cardio was unbelievable. In between rounds, he didn't sit down once. He barely even listened to his coaches. He was just pacing like, let's go, let's fight, let's keep it going. And yeah, I mean, what can you say? I guess Israel just so someone used the term, he just looked a little flat out there, and that was a good way to put it. It just looked like a toned down version of himself. I mean, his usual combinations were there, nothing really, but it just was like a just a bit slower than his usual self. Man, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I guess we're gonna find out more in the weeks to come. Probably hear from him a little bit more. After this fight, he forfeited his press conference to his head coach, Eugene Behrman, at City Kickboxing. He said he wanted to go be with people, with his loved ones, and that Eugene was going to take over from here. And Eugene, obviously, another stoic guy, doesn't really give us much. And yeah, I don't know. It's just a trip, man. It was it raining? We got a little rain going. All right. Sean Strickland is the middleweight champion of the world, man. Sean Strickland, a guy who's been in the organization, kind of a journeyman type of guy, wins and losses here and there, famously got, knocked the hell out by Alex Pereira not too long ago, but since then has looked really well and has just been training with Alex Pereira and, building his skills a little bit more, which is a kind of a funny headline I saw last night, just that, You know, since even Alex Pereira is still messing with Izzy, not even in the same division, and you know could still mess with him by training his opponent and ultimately getting the win. Just a little funny thing that was thrown out there, but obviously that's you know that doesn't matter. That's not you know relevant. Just all jokes, but yeah, I mean, just such a unique fight. I mean, everybody, and you know, their mom, their dad, their brothers and sisters, everybody was saying that this was, including myself, was saying that this was impossible for Sean Strickland. And not only that, but I was thinking like that Izzy, it wasn't gonna take long for Izzy to find the mark and really open up and probably get a TKO win over Sean Strickland. And you know, it was just all Sean Strickland in this fight. I mean, and I have to mention how well Sean Strickland did with his defensive work. I mean, his ability to parry punches is just unbelievable. It felt like Israel just didn't land anything other than maybe a couple body kicks, a lot of leg kicks, but nothing up top. Nothing was touching Sean Strickland's face. Sean Strickland was clean, not one mark on his face after the fight. And just energy, just kept that energy. He looked like he could have went another 5 rounds easily. And Israel by the end of the fight just looked tired. It makes you wonder if what his training was like. Was he just not motivated to train as hard? You know, I've been saying that coming off that Alex Pereira win, I thought that was kind of Izzy's pinnacle of his career, to where, you know, he finally beats the guy that's been tormenting him. And he came, like I said, he came in charged up in that one, really proved himself by getting that knockout win. And I just think that maybe after that fight, you know, he's just been kind of like, he's felt satisfied enough to just, you know, that's been carrying his high this whole time. And maybe that has something to do with his level at which he's been training at in the lead up to this one. And that would be my assumption. It just had something to do with the training. It just was not Izzy's best self. And this is not to take away from Sean Strickland at all. Sean Strickland did what he had to do. He came in prepared, he came in energized, and he came in with amazing cardio as he usually does, and just focus, laser focus, and you know was able to get the win for those reasons. But you have to mention that Israel just did not look the same. It just looked like a toned down version of himself, and that's really all you could say about it. And just my curiosity of it is just why was that? Was it the lack of motivation, or was it an injury that maybe prevented him from being able to train certain things, or maybe, I don't know. And that's why I guess we just have to wait to hear more from him in the future, because we really heard absolutely nothing. Usually they give an interview to the other guy in the main event that he denied it. He denied the press conference, so we really heard nothing about it. He's been tweeting here and there, but just all normal stuff, just him at his after party. Nothing crazy. He's just not giving us anything yet. So we just have to wait to hear from him. Dana White in the post-fight press conference did mention that he liked the idea of the rematch. Rightfully so. Israel's a dominant champion. That makes sense. Why not? I mean, who else are you going to do at this point? I mean, it's an interesting matchup at this point because it was such a dominant win. It's almost like how much can Izzy change going into this next one in order to get the win? And Eugene Behrman seemed a little skeptical about that narrative as well, mentioning how camps for rematches are extremely hard because it's almost like you do everything in your power to leave no stones unturned going into a fight. So when you do a rematch, it's almost like, well, what else can we do? We've done it all leading up into this fight. So, but Eugene's a smart guy. They have amazing people in that camp. I'm sure that with the brilliant minds that come out of that camp could develop a plan or a couple tweaks here and there to better Israel's chances. And yeah, I mean, I would assume that. Actually, I don't know. I was gonna say I would assume that Israel would probably come in the favorite in this next one, but how dominant that win was for Sean Strickland almost makes you wonder like what the odds would be in the rematch. I wonder if they've released them, but I doubt it. I don't know if you want to like on a side note Google Sean Strickland Israel Adesanya odds for the rematch. Yeah, like Israel Adesanya Sean Strickland rematch odds, if that even pops up. But sorry, I'm telling you, really working through this. I mean, I've been feeling like shit all week. It feels like it's starting to lighten up, but that's not important. Some people will tell you that I've been complaining a lot about this all week, but hey, I'm a guy. That's what we do. We complain when we're sick. Yeah, so I mean, amazing win for Sean Strickland. Does it in dominant fashion. You know, controversial guy all around with his, you know, interviews and whatnot. No different in the post-fight press conference. You know, just saying outlandish things. But no odds. All right, so yeah, I mean, it's still early. It's not. We're not even like 12 hours removed from the main event, literally. So I'm sure we'll get that later this week. And maybe I'll just try to make a note to remember to bring that up next week about those odds, because that is very interesting to me, like what the odds would be going into that rematch. Sean Strickland came into this one a huge underdog, plus 495, I think I saw on some people's. So, and I'll tell you what, I mean, my picks on this card did pretty well, other than nobody could have predicted Sean Strickland beating Israel, especially the way that he did. And this kind of leads into the next one, which my pick was with Tai Tuivasa to beat Alexander Volkov, but obviously Tai coming in big underdog as well. Volkov, very well-rounded, great heavyweight fighter. You know, and I guess we'll jump into this one. So, a great fight, though. Tai put up a great fight. Came in with the luscious long hair, new look going on. Seemed to be in decent shape for whatever that means as far as Bam Bam goes. But Volkov came in correct, though. He came in like the professional that he is and just looked to be in great shape. Just looked a little beefier maybe than usual, too. Just mixes up his strikes so well. His counters were on point, just stunning. Bam Bam. Bam Bam just has a chin, so it's going to take a lot to get him out of there as far as if you want to win by strikes with him. But Bam Bam persevered through all that, you know, punishment on the feet, kept coming forward, did his best to try to cut him off. But Volkov's movement looked well as well, and yeah. So what was cool about this fight, though, was how it ended. Volkov was able to eventually... So Bam Bam was adding up these vicious leg kicks, and the corner was telling him to, you know, going into the third round... Jesus Christ, I'm like, oh... Excuse me. All right. Whoa. Yeah, so the corner of Bam Bam was telling him to go at him viciously with those leg kicks because they were starting to add up, and they felt that they were taking a toll on Volkov. But Volkov adjusted well and caught one of those leg kicks and was able to put Bam Bam on his back, secured a mount position, landed some great ground and pound. Bam Bam wasn't trying to feel it no more, rolled over to his stomach. Volkov flattens him out and was about to get a rear naked choke, but Bam Bam fights through that, rolls back to his back, and then Volkov secures an Ezekiel choke, which does get Bam Bam the tap. So that makes Volkov one of 3 fighters in the UFC to finish with an Ezekiel choke. One of them coming from his Russian comrade. I was trying to think of the word they used. His Russian comrade is I almost called him Ezekiel. Alexei Oleinik. Bless you, by the way. Alexei Oleinik, who has 2 Ezekiel chokes of his own in the UFC, and which he did give a nod and a shout out to Alexei. You know, giving him his props for that. And yeah, so it was, I mean, it sucks. You know, you never want to see Bam Bam lose, but he's a guy that does not drop in stock at all when he loses. Everyone loves him. He comes and puts on a fight every time, just like he did in this one. Landed some good stuff of his own, was durable, pressed it forward the whole fight, made it entertaining nonetheless. So shouts out Bam Bam. He'll be back. Alexander Volkov on his way to possibly another title fight. Probably needs another one or two before that happens, but impressive win nonetheless by Alexander, and you know, nods to him, shouts out to him. You know, you can't not like Volkov, such a soft-spoken sweetheart. Dude is 6'7", he's a monster, and has added tattoos to his body, but he's just a good guy. He's just a nice guy. You could hear it in his press conference. He comes in, it was like the sweetest way. He came in, hops on the mic, and he goes, "Hello." It's just like, it was just, I don't know. I was watching it. I just thought it was a funny, it just speaks to who he is. Like his soft, gentle nature, but vicious nature in the octagon. And I love people like that. You know, he says himself, he's not a shit talker. He considers himself a professional in that way where it's all respect, it's all love, but it's a sport, and that we're going to go in there and do what we got to do to get the win. So you got to respect people like that. It's not all about shit talking. It's all about the sport. Shit talking is just, you know, that's just adds to the flair of the sport and the, you know, the glitz and the glamours of it. But other than that, it's all about, you know, it's all about what you do inside that octagon that matters. So, or that ring, or that circle, whatever you want to call it. And it's in the sport of MMA, combat sports, boxing, it's about what you do inside there. So moving on, very fun fight. MANEL KAPE took on Filipe dos Santos, and this was a war. Dos Santos, MANEL KAPE, former champion in other organizations, high-level fighter, took on a youngin in Filipe dos Santos, young prospect. He is very much a prospect. He put up a fight to MANEL KAPE, and MANEL KAPE came in a big favorite in this one. And this was just an all-out kickbox Muay Thai war. Just straight stand-up, in the pocket, high-velocity striking. And both dudes were getting caught. Both dudes were beat and battered. Blood coming out of both guys. And Dos Santos even had KAPE hurt a few times in this, so a little wobbled. Just a very back-and-forth fight. And when Dos Santos did hurt KAPE in the first round, or at the end of the first round, I was going to go away, and I was like, nah, fuck it, let him hear it. Good thing those headphones aren't working as much. A little lighter on the ears. Yeah, a little technical difficulties with the equipment, but only on the producer side, so which could be the more important side, but we'll figure it out. Yeah, so KAPE made adjustments mid-fight after getting hurt, slowed it down a little bit, and then sped it back up when he felt opportunity. So just a very smart fighter in MANEL KAPE. Major props to Filipe dos Santos. The dude is a dog. He took so many hard shots and just worked through all of it. It was barely fazed by any of it. And it just made for an amazing night. I think it won fight of the night, rightfully so, although there was a few fights on this card, especially in the prelims, that were amazing. And yeah, and then it ends controversial with kind of a ongoing theme in this card, weirdly enough, which we'll get to, starting with right now. After this fight, he was supposed to fight Kaikar France, who's also another guy in City Kickboxing, part of Israel Adesanya's crew. And he was in the crowd, pointed him out. They were supposed to fight, and Kaikar France got hurt and fell out, and that's why Filipe dos Santos took this fight on short notice, which also makes him a badass for that reason. And he calls out Kaikar France in the crowd, starts talking shit to him, saying, "You're a bitch, you know, I want to fight you next." And then goes on to call out the rest of his team, and then proceeds to say that his team is a bunch of this is just a quote. This isn't me saying it, so don't. Yeah, he called him a bunch of F words, a derogatory word for a gay slur, not fuck, which we all have no problem saying, but the other F word. Proceeded to call the team a bunch of F words, gay slur F words. And, you know, obviously, was he calling them like, was he calling them gay? No, it was just like a word that people have been known to use as maybe an adjective of pussy, you know, or not an adjective, sorry, a synonym. What the hell? It is an adjective, but not, I was trying to say a synonym. Sorry, guys. I'm long removed from school and kind of slacked off in my 20s when it came to educating myself. So I'm starting to read more now and build my intelligence back, this being part of it. So out here taking notes and whatnot. But don't fault me, guys. I mean, I'm just human. I figured it out. I'm a big boy. I'm a good boy. Yeah, so yeah, that was kind of controversial. DC immediately ripping the mic away from him after he drops that word, mainly because it was the second time that word was dropped in this night, which we'll get to in the prelim. Actually, we'll just mention it now because it's not a big deal. But earlier in the card, it was literally in the early prelims. Go down to the bottom. I just want to get the names right. Just like pretty much, yeah, right there is fine. Charles Radke, he beat Blood Diamond in the early prelims, and then afterwards was getting booed by the crowd because obviously the crowd's on Blood Diamond's side. Wins the fight, kind of in boring fashion, but then afterwards just says, pretty much points to the crowd and says, "Fuck you guys. You guys are a bunch of F words. Go fuck yourself." And that was the first time this word was dropped. And again, DC was forced to cut the interview short and walk out of the octagon. So just a weird night of a lot of F-bombs being thrown around. And, you know, funny enough, coming on a Sean Strickland card who says a lot of controversial shit, including that word probably. Definitely, not probably. But, so yeah, you know, and it's Australia, so... But, you know, what are you going to do? You know, if honestly, just to touch on that a little bit, my honest opinion, is it right? Absolutely not. I mean, you know, my friend said it best. You're a professional. You have a microphone in your face. You're speaking to millions of people. You could do without saying stuff like that. But ultimately, on the other side of it, not to defend it, but not to say that it's right by any means, but what I will defend about it is that this is a fight sport. You got one-on-one. Emotions are high. And people will sometimes say things they don't even mean in the heat of a moment, in the heat of passion. So it's just sometimes things, and in a sport like this, when, you know, you're literally fighting for your life, to defend your life, to try to take someone else's life, you know, that may not be the most popular way that people want to hear it said, but in a way, it's kind of that, you know, they're trying to take at least their consciousness away from them, which could result in death. So, you know, when you're dealing with, you know, situations like that, things might be said that, you know, weren't intended to be said, but just come out in the heat of the moment. So, you know, it's unfortunate, but it's also fighting, and, you know, it's an ugly game, and it's a highly emotional game, and sometimes bad things might be said. And Dana White's been known to say that in the past. Obviously, he doesn't condone it either, but he's like, what do you want me to say? I mean, these are guys that literally are fighting each other, and, you know, it gets ugly. So it's just part of it. Obviously, you try to limit that. You try to be as professional as possible. But every now and then, people are human. And like I said, in highly emotional sport like this, things might be said that aren't always ideal. So moving on from that. Another Australian, Justin TAFA, fan favorite here. Pretty much like a baby Mark Hunt. But not a baby at all. This guy is a scary motherfucker. So he took on Austin Lane, and this fight originally got canceled due to a horrific eye poke that went into Justin Tafa's eye in their first bout, and the fight was forced to be a no contest. And this was only a few weeks before this, maybe even a month, and got rescheduled for this card, which is probably rightfully so. It was, now looking back at it, it was the best thing that could have happened, because now you get Justin Tafa in front of his home crowd in Australia. Austin Lane, by the way, also played 9 years in the NFL, something like that. and it's just an athlete. So heavyweight. And yeah, so this fight starts, and it didn't take long before Justin Tafa found that chin, like I called in my picks. You could go back and look for yourself. Lands on the chin and almost does the Mark Hunt walk-off, which he loves to do as well. He's a walk-off guy too. And lands it on the chin, kind of does a slow walk-up, sees he's still there, drops down and starts to pound on him. Ref has seen enough, calls the fight, gets the KO win. And yeah, Tafa's brother just coming off a KO win of his own. The Tafa brothers are just savages, man. And exciting for the heavyweight division. You love to have some people like that. Mark Hunt was always a big star out of Australia, and now you got two Mark Hunt, type of fighters that, look similar, come from the same place, same background, all that stuff. So shout out to Tafas, becoming fan favorites, and they're great for the heavyweight division. I can't wait to see what's next for Justin and his brother. So yeah, moving on. First fight of the night, Tyson Pedro. This took on, getting ahead of myself. Tyson Pedro took on Anton TURKALJ, the Swedish fighter. Tyson Pedro, another Aussie. And this really set the tone for the card here. Tyson Pedro, weird little back and forth in the lead up. Anton TURKALJ kind of little cringy in his press conference, calling him, I don't know what he was saying. I think he was calling himself the love maker or something like that. I forget, something along those lines, which was a little weird. Tyson Pedro was even like, all right, I don't know about that, but I'll do what I got to do to get you out of there. And that's exactly what he did. It was, but shout out both guys, because they both came in the fight. They stood toe to toe with each other. TURKALJ even hurt Tyson a little bit, and then probably thought he had him hurt a little, more than he did, and proceeded to put pressure on him, which led Tyson Pedro to land a heavy shot that put TURKALJ down, and ultimately got the TKO win on the floor. And yeah, that really set the tone for the card. Fans went crazy. Tyson Pedro amped up off of it. It's always nice when you see the hometown guy and get a huge, exciting finish like that in front of the crowd, especially when it's the first fight of the night. And yeah, that's really all to say about that. Tyson Pedro, got to say, real resurgence out of Tyson Pedro. Did not have the best start to the UFC in his career, and then went away for a little bit with a bad injury, and then took some time off for himself to really just rebuild his, skills and whatnot. And ever since he's come back, he has just been a motherfucker, honestly. He's beat everyone he's fought, and most of them, if not all of them, have been by finish. So let's see if he could keep that going in the future. I'll be on the lookout. He's got my attention again. Yeah, and then in the prelims, a lot of fun stuff happened in the prelims. Carlos Ulberg had a good fight with Jung Da-un, and both guys evenly sized, pretty evenly skilled, maybe in the stand-up. It seemed like Jung Da-un just really probably just didn't let it go as much as he probably should have. But maybe for good reason, because Ulberg does have power, and he showed that power the few times that he had opportunity to, and did hurt Jung. So maybe that's why he was a little hesitant to pull the trigger. But it was kind of a interesting finish where at the end he hurt Jung, got him to the floor, and could have got the TKO win, which was one of my bets. I had Ulberg by TKO. And the ref was about to stop the fight, and then just kept on deciding to go for the choke instead. And then he was able to get the arm under the chin. The refs and the cameras could not catch at first that Jung did tap, and the fight went to the end of the round. The buzzer went off, and then they looked back at the camera, saw that he did give a little bit of a tap, and then decided to call it back to a submission win, which is kind of interesting. So Carlos Ulberg, not a grappler at all, gets a win by submission. Sometimes that happens when you have two strikers that are evenly matched. So interesting win. Big win for Ulberg. Another guy that fights out of City Kickboxing with Izzy and Kai and Dan Hooker and Volkanovski, obviously. Yep, and Brad Riddell. I mean, the list goes on with those guys. So that camp is really doing something special. Again, interesting to see how Izzy comes back off that loss. Still can't believe it. Yeah, so speaking of the Aussie fighters, though, the Chepe Mariscal, who fights out of the U.S., Spanish background, took on Jack Jenkins, who I'm very high on. Love Jack Jenkins, love his fighting style, but this one ended horribly. Chepe was able to get a wizard, which is a move that's used to defend takedowns when you have your arm wrapped around their arm, and was able to flip him over with that wizard and made Jack Jenkins land awkwardly. That dislocated his elbow. It was kind of ugly. Never like to see stuff like that. Unfortunate because Jack Jenkins was winning that fight, and it sucks when you lose, especially when you lose by injury, especially when it's that kind of injury. So unfortunate situation there. Great fight between Jamie Malarkey and John McDessie. That was an all-out war, back and forth fight, very close fight going to decision. A lot of people thought McDessie might have done enough, but I felt that it was rightfully so that Jamie Malarkey got the win. McDessie was pouring it on heavy at the end, but Malarkey, to me, got the first 2 rounds. Maybe you could argue the second round due to McDessie knocking down Jamie in the end of the second, but most of that round was won by Jamie. So I thought the decision was right. Great fight nonetheless. If you have ESPN Plus or whatever, I suggest you go back, watch that fight. And while you're at it, watch this fight too. The Nasrat Haqparast took on what's his name, Landon Quinones, and that was a war too. That was the fight that I thought was going to be fight of the night. I thought it was going to be hard to top that fight. Nasrat, a Moroccan fighter, obviously the big earthquake just happened and killed many people. So he came into the, at first I totally forgot that he had a Moroccan background, because he's like half Moroccan, I believe, half something Middle Eastern. I can't remember which one. I think it's Iranian or something like one of those. I don't want to guess. I know he's Moroccan though. And I totally forget. I didn't even put the two together. So the whole time I'm watching this fight, I'm like, Nasrat is amped up, man. He was full of energy, full of cardio. Dude was like running on a different level and just was pouring it on Landon Quinones. And big shout out to Landon Quinones for being able to take all of that and dish it back. Was able to hurt Nasrat a few times. But Nasrat was functioning on a different level, and then it hit me at the end when DC came in and mentioned how he was Moroccan, and obviously the whole thing happened to his country, so obviously he was emotional, and he came in motivated, and proved the point with this fight, and it was an amazing fight. Both guys deserve respect in this. Both guys extremely tough and durable. And, shout out Nasrat for getting that win. And condolences to everybody from Morocco that have lost their lives and, are continuing to rebuild and all that stuff. Wish them nothing but the best. Always a fucked up situation. What are you going to do? It's natural disasters, man. I mean, fuck. Never easy, but, it's part of life. So we'll get through it. We're humans. We persevere. We come together. We help. And yeah. So moving on. I already mentioned the whole controversial thing with Charles Radke. No need to go over that again. Gabriel Miranda, impressive submission over Shane Young. Miranda looking like a motherfucker on the rise. Kevin Jousset, debut, French fighter. Not too many of them in the UFC. Took on Kiefer Crosby, a new Irish fighter who came in with some hype. I mean, you ever talk these names? Kevin Jousset, that's very French, and then Kiefer Crosby, very Irish name. Jousset got the first round submission. Crosby looked good until he got taken down, and then Jousset just took advantage of it. Immediately took his back, was able to get the submission, and that was the UFC fight. That was the UFC 293 card. Great card start to finish. I mean, the fights were amazing. Again, I don't know how many times I'm going to say it. Probably say it a couple more times for the podcast is over, but still cannot believe that Sean Strickland is the middleweight champion of the world. That's the sport, man. That's the sport. You never know what's going to happen. I could sit here a million times, and I probably will, and say this person is. There's no chance in hell this person wins. My boy here shows up today and didn't even know what happened, but said he's gonna. He made a prediction going off of my past predictions. And in the past, I've been known to say, there's no way in hell that this person loses tonight. Mentioned that I said that about Amanda Nunes with Juliana Pena. What happened there? Similar situation. The favorite, the champ, the reigning champ, came in, just looked a little flat. The cardio was not there for either of them. And ultimately, their opponent came in properly and it was able to get it done. So, I mean... I'm sure I'll say it more in the future that I'll just say there's no way that someone loses this fight and then is going to proceed to lose the fight. But that's just the sport, man, and that's just sports in general. That's why we watch it. That's why it's exciting. You never know what's going to happen. If you knew that someone was going to win, it wouldn't be exciting. So, everybody has a chance, especially in the world of fighting. That's why they call it a puncher's chance. So. Let's preview this next week's card, which is very fun. Speaking of upsets, Alexa Grasso headlining this card against Valentina Shevchenko. Look at it. How cool is this? A championship fight on a fight night card. Love to see that. And this first fight was amazing. Valentina Shevchenko, reigning dominant champion, considered one of the best female fighters ever, regardless of division. Pound for pound, one of the best. Took a upset loss to Alexa Grasso in their last bout. Alexa Grasso was able to pour it on, hurt her with some striking, and ultimately get a submission win. And this was another fight probably in the lead up that I said, I love Alexa, but man, Valentina is just so good, and there's not too many areas I could see Alexa being better than her at. And look what happens. Alexa goes on to win this one. So now Alexa is the champion, and she comes in to defend her belt against the very dominant Valentina Shevchenko. And this is an exciting, fun matchup. And, also we have to note, I didn't even say it yet, that this fight night falls on Mexican Independence Day. So a lot of Mexican fighters on this card and headlined by a Mexican champion, which now there is a few of them, or a couple of them. Now, it was her... wait a minute. Now there is only one, actually. There was technically three if you want to count Yair with his interim belt. But there was Moreno, but he just lost it to Pantoja. So now Alexa Grasso holding it down for Mexico. And I got to say, quick pick in this one, I actually believe that Alexa Grasso, the way she looked in that first fight and, just... her mentality, look at this. I'm just reading now. She's coming in as an underdog again. I like Alexa Grasso in this one. I think Valentina might be starting to be on that decline from her prime. So, and I think Alexa Grasso is growing, and growing quickly too in each one of her fights. And it's just, she's been projecting upwards. Valentina has been plateaued for a very long time. She has been great, but she has been like who she is for a long time at this point. So I think that plateau is starting to fall off now, and I think that Alexa Grasso gets it done, and probably in better fashion than even the first one. So that's going to be my early prediction. We're going to make a picks video after this, but scroll down. I love this fight. Kevin Holland, Jack Della Maddalena. Amazing fight. This could headline a fight night any day of the week, any week of the year, and can easily be a co-main to a pay-per-view. Amazing matchup. I love this one. Exciting stuff. Almost even odds. Slight favorite to Kevin Holland. Very slight. And that's pretty impressive, and that's a lot of respect giving to Kevin Holland, considering how good Jack Della is. So Yeah, cannot wait for that fight. That's going to be amazing. Let's see for the rest of these cards. Yeah, I know that was pretty crazy. Go back to that actually. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. A, a wild reach advantage for Kevin Holland, 81 inches compared to 73, damn near 10-inch reach advantage. But I'll tell you what, that advantage is not as big of an advantage as you would think. It does very much help in this matchup, considering that Kevin Holland is a striker and a very dangerous striker. But Jack Della is also a very efficient, great boxer. So maybe one of the best boxers in the UFC. Definitely is one of them. I'm saying is maybe the, but maybe I kind of have to come back off that a little bit. There's a lot of great ones out there these days, but he's a motherfucker and he knows how to use his size. So he will not have a problem landing on Kevin, I'm sure. But Kevin, that does help to have that much of an advantage. That's a big advantage right there. That's a big size difference in the reach, so, and height. So that helps when you're as good as Kevin Holland. If Kevin Holland was a little lesser, I would say, it would be a little easier to pick. But we'll save that one for the picks. I'm not going to give an early pick on that yet. Raul Rosas Jr. coming back, the young phenom. At one point was the youngest fighter in the UFC, might still be, I'm not sure. Taking on Terrence Mitchell. Rosas had a hard learning curve in his last fight. Took on a guy that just was game and did not give up and was able to outwork Rosas. Rosas probably put a little too much into his early rounds and just gassed himself out. I think that, we'll leave my fight pick for the picks. I don't want to spoil it, but I like that matchup. Rosas is a, Mexican fighter. Crowd loves him. Dana White alumni. So yeah, exciting stuff. And a lot of great fights on this. Daniel Saluber, another Mexican fighter who is a huge prospect. Keep going down. Let's see. Fernando Padilla, Kyle Nelson. Okay, Kyle Nelson, great fighter. Padilla as well. Let's just scroll the prelims. Oh, Lupe Godinez. Okay. Mexican fighter. Like I said, riddled with Mexican fighters here. Lupe coming off a win. Roman Kopylov, amazing fighter, coming off a huge knockout. Click him real quick. I just want to see. I'm trying to remember off the top, but you could just start to save time. Oh, there it is. Okay. Ribeiro. Yeah. I thought. That Ribeiro was also was a huge prospect coming to that one and won by a fantastic knockout, like highlight knockout win. He's taking on Josh Fremd, who, amazing fighter too. Keep going. Tracy Cortez. Oh, God, I love her. We'll see. Haven't seen her in a while. Has taken some time off. Maybe some mental health time for herself. Went through a lot in her life. Has lost family members. Coming off a pretty what do you want to call it? Coming off a breakup with Brian Ortega. I was trying to think, just a high profile breakup, what I was going to say, in the sport. So a lot of eyes, a lot of people probably sliding in her DMs both ways, negatively and positively, trying to get at her and also probably talk shit on Brian Ortega's side, which, I feel bad for these people. I could sit here and pretend that I would be able to ignore that shit, but knowing myself, I probably couldn't. When you get people that, fans and, you're not used to the light and now here you are in the biggest stage and people are talking shit, it's hard to fucking ignore that shit. So, and she's taking on Jasmine Juicedavish. Yes, that's exactly how you say it. Juicedavish, yes. All right. It's funny. Like, you hear these names said all the time, and like I know them, but then like when you read it, it just for some reason it fucks with you. It's almost like, yeah. It's like you know that name, but it's like you forget if you don't. Whatever. I don't know. I'm just trying to defend myself. I couldn't read it, but once you said it, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how you say it. Juicedavish. Crazy name, Juicedavish. Sounds like a gum, like a delicious gum. What'd you say though? No, you said it. No, oh yeah, that's true. I think it's Juicedavish. Yeah. Either way, you know what I'm saying. Jasmine Juice Delicious, Justin Delicious, Jason Delicious, Jason Delicious, one of those. So exciting fight. I can't wait for this. Always fun. It's going to be in Vegas. The Mexican crowd is going to be lit. And yes, it doesn't need to be in Mexico to be a Mexican crowd. Vegas, close enough. The Mexicans show the fuck out for their fighters. And in Vegas is a great destination for them to do that. Whether they come from California, Mexico themselves, Las Vegas, Nevada, it's a very predominantly Mexican area or population in those areas. So they show out for big Mexican fights, and yeah, so that's what we got here. Cannot wait. I guess we'll wrap it up on that. I will be back here next week to talk about the outcomes of these fights. Again, we'll mention it one more time. Sean Strickland is the middleweight champion of the world, and that's a fucking trip. We'll see if he can remain the middleweight champion of the world when he does the rematch with Izzy. I'm sure Izzy's going to come back and train proper and be motivated. I don't think he's going to want to walk out. I don't think he's going to want to give up. I don't think he's going to want to retire like that, because if he loses again, I don't know what's going to happen. But my prediction, not to who wins or not to who wins, but my prediction is just that he comes back absolutely correct, in phenomenal shape, and puts on a way better performance than he did last night. And will that be enough to get the win? I'm not sure. Sean Strickland does have a very unique style that seems to work very well against Izzy. So very, very interested to see what happens in that rematch. And I'm sure we'll get it sooner than later, because Israel is a very active fighter, has been noted as possibly the most active champion ever in the UFC organization. And that's backed up by stats. I mean, just go look for yourself. This man, it feels like he fights 3 times a year at least. And for a champion, that's very impressive, to defend your belt 3 times against high-level opponents, and to be that healthy to be able to fight 3 times, come out of these fights and not be that hurt to where you could still fight 3 times a year for multiple years in a row. That's very impressive stuff. So, and I'm sure, knowing Izzy, this is not going to sit well with him, and he's gonna come back early next year and want that rematch and fight again. I mean, the coach even said that they talked to the higher ups at the UFC and said, we'll do this next week. But obviously, would they do it? Yeah, I'm sure they would. But obviously, they're not going to do that. Izzy was kind of beat up. He's going to take some time to recover. And but that's how confident and crazy they are that they would do that type of shit. They would. If you gave them the chance, they would do that. And maybe that's all it is a motivation thing. Maybe, So, again, a lot of unanswered questions out of Izzy's side. And I look forward to hearing some answers soon, and I look forward to that rematch. And yeah, cannot believe it. I was still in disbelief, but we have to believe it because it's the truth. And yeah, crazy stuff, man. Crazy sport, man. Crazy sport. And so I'm gonna go on my merry way and prepare for my birds to take on the bitch-ass Patriots in Foxborough. So my prediction there is that we get a 10-7 decision win over the Patriots. And that's what the fuck it is. So, yeah. All right, guys. That's it. Cue music. I will talk to you next week. Take care. Be safe. Much love.